downloading coding software.
So I'm just going to do this. How do I share? Shit, how do I find a link to this? Okay, can everyone hear me? Let's see if this works. Can everyone hear me?
On mine it says live stream offline.
Okay, so let's do this. Oh, no, it's working.
Is it?
Yeah, this is the, cool.
Oh, you have a different one?
I'll figure it out later, but yeah, this, the normal one goes straight to here now. So
Okay, so get me set up.
just refresh that page. No.
Hey, there we go.
Hey, sorry everyone. So this is going to be a little bit weird and different. Obviously still learning how to do the live stream stuff. My monitor's over there, so when I'm looking over there, I'm actually looking at my monitor to see if everything's framed up. And of course, we have Kimberly here, my wife, doing all the questions, so I will be rereading the questions. I have a lapel mic on this time, so hopefully you can hear me a little bit better. Please give me any feedback if the lapel mic is working, yay or nay. I do have my 3D printer going. I thought this print was going to be done by the time the live stream happened, but it's going, so you may or may not hear that. Just let me know. I'm trying to make these a little bit better. So yeah, if you have any questions, just go ahead and start.
Yeah.
Cool. And you got everything you need?
I do.
That's cool. Okay, cool.
Sploodle asks, how's your day?
Sploodle says, how is my day? My day is going relatively well. This live stream was a bit of a trick to set up. YouTube is really weird. You have to like set up an encoder, and it's a whole mess. The other thing too is if you see this, I think you can see it. Yeah, you got this orange wire running back. I'm actually running like a 50-foot Ethernet cable out here, and that wasn't quite enough. So I had to do a 10-foot into a switch, 50 feet into a switch, and another 6 feet in. So hopefully all that works out fine. But yeah, other than that, my day's going pretty well. How is your day, Sploodle?
In the meantime, Ryan Huo asks, are you planning to make any new robots?
Yes, I am planning on making something new. For those of you that haven't seen, I actually just sold Sergeant Cuddles. The eBay listing just ended this morning, and Mitch ended up getting that, so that's pretty cool. And I also have the old chassis to Crippling Depression. Yeah, you guys can see that. I got the old chassis to Crippling Depression for sale as well. I'm kind of cleaning house. Kamikaze is retired now, and Cuddles is retired. So I will be building a new ant or beetle weight, most likely a beetle weight. And then Crippling Depression is undergoing a full, complete rebuild from scratch. I have it all down to the bare components, and I'm going to be rebuilding that from scratch. So, yeah.
Reminder to repeat the question.
Oh.
And Tyler Cook asks, can you use your toolbox CNC to machine patterns into, for example, 1/8 inch aluminum sheet?
So Tyler asked about using the Tormach to machine patterns into 1/8 inch sheets. I'm not exactly sure what kind of patterns you're looking to do, but yes. There's a couple different ways to do it. The first method is going to be double stick tape. So you just take, a block of aluminum, block of something, or maybe even the table if you want, put down some double stick tape, just 3M stuff that you would get at Walmart or whatever. Do double stick tape, put that down, then you can engrave or etch or do whatever you want. Or you can use super glue. John Saunders of NYC CNC, I'll see if maybe Kim can find a link, or I'll go over and shoot you a link. He has a really good video about using super glue and tape and a bunch of other stuff. The problem with doing something so thin is clamping it down, but using tape or super glue is really awesome. And here is one of the ways that I did. Let me see if this shows up. This is a little block. It's just a piece of wood. I actually use this to clamp down some stuff for using. This was in my Sonos control box. I did like the face plate and the end plate, and I just used this little box, and you can see that there's like some cutouts and stuff there. So if you have really thin plates, you can either clamp them down or just use some super glue.
It's not letting me go to the next. Let's see. Keenan asks, what do you do for a living?
So Keenan asked what I do for a living. My day job is a product manager for a company called eGauge Systems. We make little handheld energy monitor things. They get plugged into your fuse box, breaker box in building, residential, commercial, and they monitor all the energy usage for the whole house, the whole circuit. So I am product manager, so I'm in charge of shipping, manufacturing, product development, and kind of all the supply chain stuff. So that is my day job. Oh, and speak louder. I can barely hear you.
Oh, you can?
I can barely hear you. Yeah, your mumbles.
All right. So Jonathan Ransom asked, how's the tea?
It's okay. I don't really like it that much. This is Tradewinds peach. I think it's peach unsweetened tea, and it's very floral. There's a lot of floral notes on this. So not so much peach, but more just kind of like that potpourri taste. So not really too thrilled with it, but it's cold, so it's good.
Aaron Brown asks, how's the Stratasys 3D printer going? Decided to keep going on it? Love talking to you about it.
Awesome. So yeah, Aaron asks about the Stratasys, and I'm going to try moving the camera. Now that I'm hardwired, this might actually work out better. So there it is. So here's the Stratasys. Let me get around. So here's the Stratasys in its current state right now. I think I am going to continue a little bit with it. Let me see if I can get a close-up of this. Here is the latest Benchy that I got off of this. It doesn't really show up well. Spoiler, this looks really, really good. What I've done is I've actually tightened up all the belts in here. One of the issues that this structure is so heavy and so rigid that I thought that the belts could be a little bit looser. I thought they were tight, but they're like guitar strings now. I tightened the hell out of them, and they are really tight, and that actually helped out tremendously. The problem I'm having right now is I once again slammed into the bed, and I actually completely broke, almost sheared off the end of the E3D. So I got some replacements in the other day and just hadn't had a chance to put those back in. But that actually helped quite a bit, is just tightening all the belts up and just really tightening everything down. So I'm going to do at least one more video that shows the changes and improvements that I made, and show you kind of the before and after on some of the test prints, so you can get a better idea of how the tweaks helped. So at least one more video.
ShredXCam22 asks, did you go to college? Did you go to college or have any formal training with this stuff?
What was the name?
ShredXCam22.
ShredX. ShredX asks if I had any formal training or if I went to college for this, and no, I did not. I did start out college as a computer science major, so I had like a year of computer science. So I took all the kind of basic, weed out engineering courses, and then pretty much dropped out, went back to business, kind of dropped out of that, and then eventually went back for psychology. And I do actually have a degree in psychology, but beyond my 1 year, calculus and physics and all that, I don't really have an education in any of this stuff.
There's a Mitch 3D that says, hey guys, is that Mitch that bought Cuddles?
Mitch, how you doing? So, Mitch is the purchaser for Sergeant Cuddles, and here is going to be your care package. So here is Cuddles right there, and I've got all sorts of other goodies for you. So this is what you'll be getting. I'm going to put some new pieces in here later today, but hopefully in the next day or so you'll get this out. So thank you, Mitch, for purchasing Sergeant Cuddles and giving him to a good home.
Sonic, I remember him from the last
Okay.
stream. He asked, would you ever build a small car or cart or something like that?
Ooh, that's a good question. Samik asks if I would ever build a new cart or car, something like that. Maybe. So let me see if I can do this here. Let's see. I'm going for a little ride. So if we look under here, we can see wheelchair chassis number 1. And if we turn here, you can see number 2 hiding back there. There is another chassis back there. And I also have 2 full boxes of more parts, and I even have some brushless motors back there. So I'm kind of planning on it. I just don't know what I would do with them. I'm thinking about like a really tall self-balancer. I just, too many projects, not enough time, but maybe.
Tyler Smithline asked, do you have a favorite BattleBot from a different engineer?
So Tyler asked if I have a favorite BattleBot. What's my favorite?
What is your favorite?
I don't know. That's a hard question. I like Minotaur. I hate to say it, it's kind of general, but I really like Minotaur. What was the other one? I really like Bronco. Bronco is really, really neat.
Bronco and Witch Doctor.
Witch Doctor. Witch Doctor's great.
Counter-Revolution for engineering.
I do like Counter-Revolution. Counter-Revolution's very good. I really like Whiplash. I forgot the team. Someone in there is going to know the team. I think, Mitch, you know the team. Vasquez, Matt, and forget the other guy's name, Vasquez kids. I really, really liked Whiplash. Seeing that at Robo Games last year, that was actually pretty cool. So I really like Whiplash.
Nice. Yeah. My mom says your shop is very clean today.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Mom.
It's all right. Hi, Mom.
Team Tonto Robotics asks, how did you initially get the Tormach sponsorship?
So Team Tonto? Team Tonto asks how I originally got the Tormach sponsorship. So just, for this shot. Well, you see, Tormach is a fantastic product. So I started out a while back building my own CNC machine, PM30, converted that over. I converted a couple mills previous to that. And I was currently working at SparkFun Electronics at the time, and I was highly visible in the maker community because of that. And they actually just contacted me out of the blue. Kim can attest to this. I actually had a game plan that I was going to create a YouTube channel, get a bunch of followers, build it up by doing combat robots, and then within a year, I was going to call Tormach and see if they'd be interested in the sponsorship. And literally 2 months into making YouTube videos, they contacted me, and we started talking. And it was right when they released the 440, so they were looking for someone kind of more in that maker community to actually show off the 440. So it really just kind of happened. I had a plan, and they just kind of beat me to the punch, which was really interesting. Yeah.
Daniel Diarco, do you know? Mm-hmm. He says, "Hello, Rabbit. You're an inspiration."
Talk louder.
Well, I don't have a mic.
But I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. It says you have a dream garage.
Oh, thank you.
Jared Wagner asks, hey, Robert, have you ever had a project that you were interested in but dropped because it was cost prohibitive? If yes, what project?
That was Daniel?
This is Jared Wagner.
Jared.
Yeah.
So Jared asked if there's ever been a project that I haven't done because it's been cost prohibitive. I'd say heavyweight. I would be building heavyweight robots if it wasn't cost prohibitive. It's not really cost prohibitive in the fact that I can't physically do it, but it's not something you really want to play around with. Like if I build Sergeant Cuddles or another ant weight, I could tinker around and buy some material and play around with it. Like I have a bunch of extra parts for that. heavyweight's not something you can really go into lightly and just kind of, build one on a whim. So I think maybe that's a project that I'm still kind of waiting to tackle. I don't really have any aspirations to build like a car or a motorcycle or anything really big, but definitely heavyweights can be prohibitive because I'd be looking to spend probably 10 to 15,000 on that, and that's not something I really just want to jump into and be like, hey, let's do it. So yeah, probably that.
Ben Wood asks, have you ever looked into putting a fourth axis on a 3D printer? Ben asks if I've ever thought about putting a fourth axis on a 3D printer. No, and I don't know anyone that has. I've never thought about that. But so if you do a fourth axis, you would basically get rid of overhangs and you get rid of the need for support largely, right? That would be interesting. I think the slicers probably wouldn't be able to handle it. I know with like HSM Works and Multicam and all those guys, it's really hard to do fourth axis stuff, or harder to do fourth axis. So I'm just not sure the slicers would be set up for it. And I'm not a software guy, so I wouldn't know how to do that. But yeah, now I'm thinking about it. Thanks. Can you share the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, your print is going really well. I should talk about it.
Yeah, so right now I'm printing. Let me move this over. See how close I can get. I've been playing around with my CR10 a little bit more. Boop. So that's about as close as I can get right now. This is one of those fang ducts. So it basically replaces the whole extruder head, and it has these two pipes. So the fan's up top and has these two pipes that come down for layer cooling. This has been going for about 12 hours right now. It's actually looking really nice. Dialed in, the CR10 is quite a nice little printer. So FY for anyone looking for an inexpensive printer with a big build platform, I'm really liking this, and I'm actually benchmarking the prints from this against the Stratasys, and this is still winning. So I need to get the Stratasys to a point to where its prints look better than the $400 machine.
Sonic says there's a 3D printer called 5-Axis Maker in the UK, but they have 5-axis FDM 3D printer.
Oh, that's filament deposited material. That.
If you want to mention.
Yeah, who's that, Ben?
This was Sonic.
Sonic. So Sonic says there's a 5-axis. I mean, it's in the comments, but he was saying that there's a 5-axis machine out of the UK. Do you have a link or something like that you could submit?
It's not letting you do links.
I'm not letting you do links? Okay. I'll look at it after the live feed. It's going to be in the comments for everyone to see. I'll check that out. I'd be kind of curious how that would work with moving the part around. Huh.
Aaron Brown said, I see the 9x20 lathe. What mods do you have for it and recommend to someone who's running it stock?
Gotcha. So Aaron asked about 9x20 lathe. So let's go over to this side of the shop. I like this stand. That's nice. So here is my 9x20. This is actually the Central Machinery version. So this is the old Harbor Freight version. There's also a Enco and Grizzly version of this. Mine is pretty much stock, other than I've got a Phase 2 Plus tool changer on this. This is, I think it's an AB or AA, I can't remember. Having the quick change tool post is actually really nice, but that's pretty much the only thing I have on. I just have the tool post. Everything else over here is stock. I actually do have a treadmill motor with a treadmill controller that I was going to use to replace the motor, but the motor runs fine, so I really haven't had a reason to do it. This is okay. My biggest issue with it is that there is a lot of play in most everything, and I just kind of haven't gone there and dialed it in. I'm actually using the Tormach a lot more for any turning stuff. So I don't know, it's a good machine. I got this for like, $300 off Craigslist or something like that. I like it enough, but I don't do much with lathes to justify really upgrading this. So, but it's a good little machine. You can usually find these on Craigslist pretty cheap.
Mutually assured instructions said hello, and also said fast electric robotics. Is that Whiplash?
Yeah. Fast Electric. They, I forgot some of the other robots that they do, but yeah, that's the Vasquez team. Yeah, totally.
Little asks, are you excited for BattleBot Season 3? If so, who are you rooting for?
I am really excited. It's Blue Last if I'm excited for BattleBot Season 3. I'm extremely excited. Excited and also really upset because if anyone is
following it on Facebook and Reddit every single day, like every hour of every day. There's some new post about like a new team that's going there. And it just really makes me want to build a heavyweight so badly, especially since Tormach is sponsoring several of them. Yeah, it makes me want to build something. Who's my favorite? I really want to see Minotaur like really ruin someone's day. They did really good season 2, but everyone kind of hopes for like Minotaur Tombstone matchup kind of thing. I'm really anxious to see that. Obviously, Bombshell is always good. Tombstone's always good. I don't know. There's like 50 robots this year, and there's a lot of new entries. So I'm not going to have any favorites. I'm just going to go into it and watch. Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to mention how the whole Chinese competitions are kind of making it difficult for BattleBots, for some robots to get on BattleBots.
Yeah, and so for anyone not familiar, there's a lot of Chinese competitions. There's King of Bots, which had season 1. Now they have season like 1.5, or This is Robots, something like that. I forgot what the other name is. Then there's Susie Bots, which is Clash Bots or KFC Bots. And then there was another one. Was there a third one? I can't remember. But there's a lot of Chinese competitions, and they're all kind of at the same time. So people are either going to, with Robot Wars gone, people are either doing BattleBots or Clash Bots or King of Bots. And some people are kind of doing both. And then there's Robo Games. So there's a lot of fighting out there right now. And it's kind of hard to keep track of everything because at different competitions, everyone has different names. So, it's called one thing at one place and one thing another. So yeah, it's complicated.
Sploodle asks, ever thought of making a beetle or featherweight pneumatic flipper?
Sploodle asked if I've ever thought about making a pneumatic flipper. I haven't. Well, I have, but I don't. I like flippers. Don't get me wrong. I really like flippers, and if I was going to do one, a pneumatic would be the way to go. If anyone's familiar with David Small of Arizona Robot Club and Small Robotics, he is doing a lot of those. He's bringing his 3-pound Beetle to Robo Games, and it's a pneumatic flipper, I believe. He kind of does the flipper things, and I don't know. I kind of like when every team kind of has a thing and they stick with that thing. So I don't really want to, as much as I'd like to play with it, I think I kind of want to stick with spinning things. I think I'll stick with the spinning stuff, with just kind of, robust chassis, good drivetrain. I think I'll kind of stick in that little niche. But I would like to build a flipper someday, but I'm just kind of focusing on other stuff.
Dennis asked, do you know if it is possible to use a wood router bit on an aluminum profile? Need to make a normal slot to a V-slot profile.
Yeah, so Dennis asks if you can use a wood router bit on metal, essentially. Yeah, you can. I think I have some over here. I would go look, but I probably wouldn't find it. I've actually used a couple Freud Diablo router bits on aluminum, and they do okay. When you're looking for those bits, just look for something that's carbide. Generally speaking, carbide is going to be the same material that you're going to find in a standard aluminum end mill. So you should be okay. Obviously, feeds and speeds and all that stuff are going to be a consideration. But generally speaking, yes, it should work. If you do look on YouTube, you can see a couple people that have even used router tables with just traditional, wood router bits that have run aluminum sheets through it and done like roundovers or chamfers and stuff. And it actually works out okay. Just pay attention to your feeds and speeds and you should be fine. But yeah, there's nothing fundamentally different about those really. The geometry is a little bit different, things like that. But for aluminum, you should be good.
All right. Dima Balan asks, Robert, what do you think about Z-axis driven by belt instead of lead screw? Zero wobble is possible with belts on Z-axis? Question.
Okay, and what's the name?
Dima.
Dima asks about, so on, I'm assuming this is 3D printing because you said Z-wobble. So most 3D printers for the Z-axis use lead screw. And the problem with having a lead screw, unless it's perfectly vertical, or if you only use one of them, you get kind of a wobble. So as it goes up, it either kind of does that, or if it's out of alignment, it kind of does that thing, and you get a little bit of wobble and you get some banding in the Z from what I understand. So he was asking, how would I feel about using like a belt drive? And I think a belt would be really interesting because it's a consistent tension. You're not going up and down. So you're just kind of pulling it up, pulling it up, pulling it up. So you wouldn't really have to worry about any backlash situation. And if you're using linear rails or some kind of guide, then you'd be fine. So yeah, that's interesting. I think a lot of people end up using lead screws because of the ratio that you get. So if you have a typical lead screw, let's say it's a 20 pitch lead screw. For every 20 turns, you move 1 unit. So with belts move a lot quicker. So for 1 full revolution of the motor, you might move a couple inches, whereas 1 full revolution gets you a 20th of that with a lead screw. So it's actually that kind of mechanical benefit is why most people are using a lead screw instead of a belt, because you couldn't get that fine resolution. You'd have to figure out some kind of gear head or gearing mechanism if you wanted to use a belt. Interesting question.
Jared Wagner has a couple more questions.
Mm-hmm.
First, how did you go about getting hired with SparkFun with a degree in psychology?
So Jared was asking how I got hired for SparkFun with a degree only in psychology. That's a very interesting story. Next. How I got hired with SparkFun. They had an opening for production manager assistant or assistant to the production manager, however you want to say it. And I actually did not get that job. I interviewed for it and didn't end up getting it, but they liked me, so they just offered me any job that they had. So I actually started at the company at like $9 an hour or something like that, just doing soldering. And so I was a solder tech. And long story short, I just crushed it. I absolutely crushed it. I was doing more production than the entire rest of the production team. So they actually promoted me and I crushed that. They promoted me, I crushed that. And I said, okay, I'm just going to be your product manager. So I basically put myself in the role of product manager because they didn't currently have one. And I just kind of went from there. But yeah, just, get a job and just embarrass all your coworkers and you'll be good.
And everyone will hate you.
And everyone will hate you. Just do the best job you can possibly do and things will come.
Second question from Jared. What are the biggest pitfalls you see with people new to combat robot building?
Biggest pitfalls. I think I kind of answered this one in the past. It's kind of a weird answer, but I think the biggest pitfalls are not really understanding context. I think everyone that is watching this right now that knows anything about combat robots can agree to the following. You talk to someone about it for the first time and they say, why don't you use a net? Why don't you use a gun? Wouldn't it be cool if it was just like solid concrete? What if it was just solid cast iron? People always have the same ideas and the same oh, I would do it so differently. I think the biggest pitfall that people have is not going to a competition and just looking and seeing how it's done and what's successful and what's not. I think a lot of people try and design in a vacuum and they don't really understand how things work. Copy something first and do the same as what they're doing and kind of learn more about how to do it right. I think that might stifle a little bit of innovation, but at the same time, I think I've seen a couple of people show up to competitions that did no research and they just die in the first 10 seconds and they get really sad about it. I think really having the experience of watching fights, watching competitions, I think that's kind of a big pitfall that people fall into, is not understanding that it's already pretty well established.
Thanks for taking the time to do an EMA.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
TechTudo100 asked, do you have any tips on how to find good stuff on Craigslist?
Oh, yes. I was going to do a whole video about this. I'm not sure if, what? Who was it?
TechTudo?
TechTudo asks good tips about finding stuff on Craigslist. I was going to do a full video on this, and maybe I still will. It's persistence. It's really persistence. I've said it a million times. Everyone says oh, nothing's ever good on Craigslist right now. If you go on Craigslist right now on a Sunday, all that good stuff that was amazing that got listed on Saturday is already at someone's house. Someone's enjoying that right now, and you're not, because they bought it because they were looking for it. So if you go on Craigslist and look right now, I guarantee you 100% there's nothing good on there because it just sold. You have to be the guy or gal that's on there looking at it right when it gets listed. And the way to do that is know what you're looking at, know what kind of things will pop up, and set up saved searches. And then also, whenever you're bored or free or think of it, go on Craigslist and just look at every category that you're interested in. That's how you find deals. It's just massive amounts of persistence. Yep. Because once again, like my camera stand, my laser, those are searches that were set for over a year, and I got like 2 hits every single day for a year, and it took a year for the right one to pop up. So it just takes time.
Team Screw Up says, "Hi, remember me? I asked for advice and stuff. I went to the event and won once, losing all other fights. Almost all of my fights were against spinners. I got the best newcomer award though."
Oh, nice. So who was that team?
Team Screw Up. They were
Team Screw Up.
at the last live.
Yeah, so Team Screw Up was at the last hangout, and they went to their first competition. Congratulations. And they won a fight and lost the others. Totally fine. As I said in the previous one, Sergeant Cuddles lost both the very first 2 fights I ever had with Sergeant Cuddles. It lost pretty spectacularly, just sad. And, I kind of put it off for a while. So that's fantastic. So yeah, winning one, that's good. What's your design? What's the robot? She'll ask. Congratulations. I want to do it over there so I can't see
See what?
any of the comments.
Oh yeah. John Ransom says, "How about a spinning flipper?"
Spinning flipper would be great. That's why I like Whiplash so much. Is Whiplash? Do you know Whiplash?
No, I forgot.
So Whiplash is kind of traditional bot, but they have an arm in the front that lifts up and down, but it has a vertical spinning disc in the arm, so it can actually flip up, but also has a vertical spinner. So that's why I like Whiplash. It's pretty cool. Complicated, but cool.
Sonic says, "TR 10x2 screw rods have been also used in FDM 3D printers like Gmax."
Oh, yeah. I'm. Sonic was talking about lead screws. What was it? Let me see.
10x2 screw rods.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm actually looking at a Gmax. Shout out to anyone. I'm kind of discussing some things with them right now. If anyone from G-Create is watching, or if anyone knows anyone, yeah, put in a plug. You love me. Yeah, I'm talking with them right now. I'm kind of trying to figure out what my next printer will be. I'm not sure if it's going to be the Stratasys. The CR10 is fantastic, but I kind of want something a little bit bigger, a little bit more advanced. So I am actually looking at the G-Create. The G-Create Gmax looks really, really nice for what it is. So that's one that I'm looking at. So good to know. What else you got?
Zoran says, "Warrior of Team Waiachi has a flipper powered by a spinner."
Yeah. What's the name? I keep forgetting the name.
Zoran?
Zoran was talking about Team Waiachi's flipper. They, I don't know exactly how the mechanism works, but the spinner on the outside creates stored energy, and then they can transfer that into the flipper mechanism up front. So it's really interesting that when that starts spinning up, it actually acts as a flywheel, and then they can transfer that to the flipper to flip. And what's the Sportsman that was at Motorama that could do that also? That was slightly different. But yeah, there's one that just storing up that energy in a flywheel and then transferring that into a flip. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Team Screw Up says, "Man Array is a kit bot I brought for December. I added an aluminum wedge with a section pointing skyward to stop things going over me. I had foam board to stop spinners."
Okay.
I'm adding to this.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah.
The design.
Okay. So very cool. So yeah, the Man Array kits. Yeah. Really neat. I wish there were more ant weight kits out there. Wink.
Sploodle asks, "Looking to buy a new PC. Are you any good with them? If so, tips on what to buy."
Sploodle asked about buying a new PC. That's really not my realm. I could probably give you advice, but it'd be the same advice anyone else would give you. Yeah, that's really, I'm not the right person to ask for that. So go big.
Team Scarlet Devil, that's
Scarlet
Magneto.
Oh, Magneto, yes. Yeah, Scarlet Devil. Magneto was the Sportsman flipper at Motorama this last time. Really cool. You can just hear this huge spin up and hum, and then it basically built up stored energy, and then it just, boom, launched the flipper. It's really cool.
That was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Is the only time a flipper has had like a death hum and a big like shock sound. Usually flippers don't sound like much. So that was cool.
Jonathan Ransom asked, how's the filament weight sensor project coming?
Now, Jonathan asked about the filament weight sensor project. It's mostly tabled right now. It does what it needs to do. It's right back there on the Stratasys when I showed it previously. I think I got to get the 3D printing side of things figured out before I do anything more with the filament weight sensor. Although I did have an idea. Eventually, I want to build a kind of freestanding enclosure type thing, just kind of like with 80/20 on the outside, platform for the printer, plexiglass to seal the whole thing up. And then above the printer, do kind of the sealed chamber up top that has like 5 or 10 spool holders across the top, each one with a weight sensor. And so I could just kind of at a glance store all my filament in a nice sealed enclosure and then look at how much is left on each one. So, but that's going to be when I figure out what my final printer is going to be. I'm not sure if it's going to be the G Create or maybe I'll just keep the CR10. But yeah, when I get kind of closer to figuring out what printer I'm going to keep, I'll probably build some system like that. And then the filament measuring system will be integrated into that.
Teams Group added to their design description, talking about the foam board stopping things from immediately hitting something solid.
So ablative armor is when you add basically something sacrificial in front of your real armor that the energy gets dissipated by hitting that thing first. So people have done like 2x4s, chipboard, foam board. So the energy kind of goes into breaking that away first.
Yeah, who did that with you? They had a piece of wood or something.
Pop-Tart. So in the finals at AVC, Pop-Tart had the 2x4 mounted into the front. So yeah, they talk a lot about it in the Riobots combat robot handbook thing. There's different types of armor. There's armor that can deflect something away. There's ablative, which kind of absorbs energy into it. So there's a lot of different types of armor. And crippling depression largely has ablative armor because the aluminum is the 6061, which is softer and it absorbs just a tremendous amount of energy into it.
Kind of at a pause.
Okay.
If there's anything you want to talk about in particular.
I'm gonna go look at my print. Yeah. See if we can bring this over. Let's see how close we can get. Boop, boop, boop. Cool, it's almost done. So I've also been, let's see here. So I've also been playing around a lot with Octopi. I don't know why I haven't done this sooner, Octoprint. So here's Octoprint. You can see all this?
You might want to go a bit closer. It's kind of blown.
Let's see what that looks like.
It's a bit better.
Okay. So here I've got the Octoprint interface set up, and it's actually really cool. I'm really big into stats when 3D printing and seeing everything. So you can see like the current layer it's on. So it's on layer 899 out of 960, which is pretty cool. And this is the real time of it going through the layers. And normally I would have this webcam set up on it, but you can go over here and see the webcam, and then you can see like the temperature and everything. So I know this is really common. A lot of people are using Octoprint, but this is the first time I've really delved into it and used it. And it's actually pretty darn cool. And I even have a plug-in here that I can turn on and off the printer. I just need to wire that up. But yeah, I've been playing a lot with Octoprint this weekend, which I am digging.
My mom asked, when and where is the next fight you plan to fight in?
When and where next fight?
That'd be ABC.
Yeah, I think the next one is going to be AVC. There's a couple other little competitions I might like attend. I think Mitch said something in June is what he bought Sergeant Cuddles for. So I don't know, maybe I'll pop down there and just kind of see someone else fighting with Sergeant Cuddles. But the next big competition is going to be in September, which will be AVC. I may or may not have a Beetle ready for that time, but I might have a Beetle. And I'm definitely going to have Crippling Depression version 3 at AVC since I won first place. I'm trying to defend my title there.
AVC too.
Ah, yeah. AVC is a great competition. It's just small enough that it's not, like the stress of robo games, but it's big enough to where there's enough competition. And with 3 arenas, you've got the ant weight, the beetle weight, and then the big arena. It's a cool event. I'm really, really happy that it's local. So.
You got more coming in. Ben Wood asks, have you thought about getting parts SLS for your robots?
Ew. So Ben asks about getting parts done by SLS. That's what does that stand for? If anyone in the comments wants to tell me what that stands for, that's the stereolithography something. Am I on the right track, Ben? Is that what that is?
Selective laser sintering.
Oh, selective laser sintering. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I'm thinking of SLA. So there's a few different types of 3D printing that I am confusing all the acronyms for. So there's the FDM, which is filament. You just spit filament through a tube and throw that down, the hot glue gun approach. Then you've got stereolithography, which is what like a Formlabs uses, which is resin cured. You basically have a vat of resin and use a laser to cure it, build it up, build another layer, stuff like that. And then there is the thing you're talking about. I actually use that for work quite a bit. I do that through Shapeways. It's okay. The problem with it is you get a very kind of flexible gummy part, and it's also relatively expensive versus doing it on your own. I'm going to stick with doing my own 3D printing here at home just because I like to control it. But I have actually done quite a bit of prototypes. All the injection molds that I design for work, we do in that process before we go to design and do the injection mold because it's a little bit more accurate than the FDM or anything else. So yeah, probably not for robotics, but I'm definitely aware of it and have used it.
Aaron Brown has a good question. If you decide to part with the Stratasys, is it going on Craigslist?
Aaron asks if I decide to part with the Stratasys, if it's going to go on Craigslist. Maybe. I'm not sure really where I'm going to go next after the tuning video, but probably on Craigslist. I'll announce it on the Facebook channel. Obviously, shipping is going to be kind of a non-issue, or will be a big issue, a non-starter, however that goes. I do have a box of parts over in the corner that I'm going to sell off. I have a ton of extra stuff that I pulled off of it, but yeah, it might just go on Craigslist. We'll see. I just got too many other projects to worry about getting that going when the CR10 works so well out of the box. So we'll see.
Salmic asks if you're into any kind of sports.
Oh, like ball sports? Salmic is asking about if I'm in any sports. Not really.
You appreciate hockey.
I like hockey. I used to play hockey in high school and a tiny bit in college, but I don't really watch sports.
Combat robots.
Combat robots. Just combat robots. That's a sport. So yeah, pretty much just combat robots.
Let's see. Dima asks, is the enclosure enough for successful ABS prints? As I know, ABS parts have a lot of internal forces during printing, so heated chamber is also necessary, like annealing process in metallurgy.
Yeah.
Does that all make sense?
Yeah. So Demo's asking about ABS and enclosure.
Yes.
Is it enclosure? Are you asking about the Stratasys? If the enclosure is enough on the Stratasys? If you are, yeah, the Stratasys was designed only for ABS. It uses the breakaway support material and ABS, and that's all it was ever meant to do because of those heated chambers or the heated things and the heated chamber. It is really only meant for that. However, I don't think you need a full heated chamber for ABS. I've actually had good with just stacking a bunch of cardboard boxes around everything and running the bed a little bit hotter. You get a tiny bit of warping. But if I ever move to that kind of cabinet that I was talking about, I'm not going to do a heated enclosure, but just keeping the stank in a little bit really does help keep the parts from warping a lot. So
Benwood adds to the SLS stuff. I meant more SLS with metal powder, so semi-hollow titanium panels that can help shock absorb and be lightened.
Yeah. So Ben was asking about SLS in terms of metal, like what is it? Desktop Metal is one of the companies. that does that. Casey Coons of BattleBots, Poisonera, he and I were just talking about this the other day. He has access to one of those printers, and he can print in, I think, Inconel, which is amazing. Inconel is just like unobtainium, basically, in terms of metal. He can actually 3D print in Inconel, but he was saying that it's $300 for every pound worth of material. So if you're going to do like an ant weight chassis, it would be like $150 worth of just material. So I don't know. I'm not as familiar with that. Part of the thing that I like doing is kind of only using technologies that I can own here at home. And even if Desktop Metal called me and said, we'll give you a machine, I would take it. But that's never going to happen. I really kind of like limiting it to things that a normal person could do. So I kind of stay away from the super, super exotic stuff because that stuff is really, really expensive still, unless you know something I don't.
Jonathan Ransom asked favorite movie.
Favorite movie. I think we covered this. Jonathan Ransom asked favorite movie. We covered this a little bit.
What is it this week?
This week? Oh, man. We just watched Isle of Dogs last night, and that was surprisingly good. Surprisingly good. Someone really... No? Maybe ask a John. Oh, did we stop? Oh, we're back.
Okay.
So in summary...
Team Scrub asks, would you ever try building a cluster bot?
Oh, Team Scrub?
Screw up.
Screw Up. Team Screw Up asked if I'd ever build a cluster bot. Maybe. So crippling depression is semi-modular, kind of for that reason. The drive pods can basically be slapped into anything else. The electronics are pretty easy, and everything is set up to where if you're doing it really simply, you can just slap a chassis around the drive pods and everything pretty quickly. So crippling depression was kind of meant to be a featherweight / lightweight cluster bot, because if I ever built spares, I could just do 2 crippling depressions or do like one as the horizontal spinner and do the other as a wedge. So kind of, but if I'm going to do a lightweight, I'll probably end up doing a lightweight. So it's kind of, it's in the back of my mind, definitely, is doing a cluster bot, but no immediate plans right now.
All right. Mitch says June is Robot Rebellion 2.2 for Dallas area robot combat.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That?
Yeah, Mitch was talking about in June, they have DARC, Dallas Area Robotics Club, Robot Rebellion. So that's a pretty cool event. What they just do insect classes, is that right, Mitch? I can't remember what they do, but I think it's just insect.
Zaran says you should build a UK beetle and come to one of our events.
Oh, what's a UK beetle?
1.5 kilos.
Oh, okay, so basically the same. Oh man, going over to UK, I don't know. I'll be honest, the next robot I build will be a beetle. I might do an ant weight, but I'm gonna put priority on a beetle, which you can't see over on this bench over there, as I am actually testing out some components. I won't talk about what's over there, but I am doing some tests on beetles. And upcoming here, I'm planning on doing a test with brushless motor drivers. I want to kind of take a VEX 29 versus Tiny ESC versus some of the other simple little brushless motor drivers out there and kind of do a test and see which one's worth it. So I am kind of starting to do a little bit of testing for a beetle weight. So yeah, beetle will probably be the next thing I build. So who knows? Maybe I'll make it over there.
I think I missed one, but I remember it. I forget who asked, but somebody asked what the teaser was for the box in your car.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering if that'd come up. Let's take a stroll over to this side. Someone was asking what the teaser was. I posted on Facebook a big box, and no one guessed what was inside. Well, here's what was inside. There it is. So this is my new bandsaw. Let me get over here. So I ended up picking up this to replace my really small bandsaw. So this is a 7x12. This is actually Harbor Freight. On Harbor Freight's website, they actually show the green old version. This is the brand new version that they just came out with, or have been out for now 6 months or so. But this is the new version that they're not advertising. And I found a store by me that had the new version. So I picked this up. And this is really cool. And as you can see, there is my camera set up. So yes, I have been doing a video on this. I think this will post in a few weeks, but I have a full video review of this bandsaw for what it's worth. But this was what was in the box. This cord's all tangled up. They're gonna look at you for right now.
Ooh. Hi.
Say hi, Cam.
Hi. I missed another one too. Let me find it real quick. It was
all the time and money in the world. Heavyweight. I'd do a heavyweight combat robot. That would definitely, wow. Oh, you were scrolling.
I was scrolling. Yeah.
Oh, I thought. I would do a heavyweight combat robot. The other thing, if I had all the time and money in the world, I would build a 3D printer from scratch. I'm toying with the idea of still doing it, but when I was looking for a 3D printer, it's really hard to find one that's not plastic. You know, there's like kind of the $200 ones, and then there's the several $1,000 ones, but the several $1,000 ones still aren't exactly what I would want. So I still think there's some room to do a high-end, more industrial 3D printer. There's just not that many companies out there doing it. So those would be the two things I would build.
Well, no, I feel pointless now because you're reading all the things.
No, you're
So,
doing good.
Louis Servel, I'm assuming the pronunciation because hello from France.
Oh, hello.
In your
Louis.
videos, you use SolidWorks, and I want to know if you try Fusion 360. Personally, I prefer SolidWorks, maybe because it's created by a French company, which I didn't know.
Dassault Systems creates SolidWorks. Yeah, so French company. Asking about SolidWorks versus Fusion 360. I like SolidWorks, and I've said this before, mostly because I know it. Every time I go to Fusion 360, things are done differently. It takes a lot more time, and I get frustrated, and I punch the monitor, I have to buy a new monitor. I just know SolidWorks. However, there are a few things in Fusion that I like a lot better, the integration with CAM, things like that. But there's a lot of things in Fusion that are just stupid. The hole wizard in SolidWorks is amazing. You make a hole and you say, oh, I want this to be a 440 tap. I want this to be a countersink. In Fusion, you make a hole and then you have to assign that hole a thing. So there's a little bit of good and bad about both. I really only use SolidWorks because I've been using it for the last, 5-10 years, and I just know it better. And my print just finished.
Oh, go check out the print.
Yeah, so.
While you're checking out the print, Aaron says the Stratasys can do soluble support of some models.
Yeah. Aaron says that the Stratasys has two models or two versions, as the BST and the SST. The BST is breakaway support structure, yay, and the SST is soluble support. So the print just came off. Let me just give you a kind of a close-up of what this print looks like. Oh, that's all that can go down. Huh. Let's try it like this. So it's still got the supports on it, and black doesn't really show up that great. But yeah, it is a really, really decent little print.
Yeah.
So I will install this later today after I get done answering all your questions.
Sonic says, here's something you can try, Robert. 3D print in PLA and then sand cast it. Have you thought of that?
Oh, yeah. So Samik was talking about printing in PLA and doing sand casting. That's something I definitely want to go into. I think 3D printers are great. I really like 3D printers, and I've told a couple people I don't ever want to become a 3D printing channel because there's so many good ones out there. I wouldn't be adding any value. But there's a lot of things you can do with a 3D printer that go just beyond making the model. What I want to do out of 3D printing is to make prototypes for CNC machines, like do a 3D print real quick and then test it for the CNC. But also doing casting and other stuff like that is really interesting to me. I want to try doing polyurethane casting for making my own custom wheels. There's a lot of really cool things. But yeah, I've seen to where you can do PLA molds and then do sand casting afterwards. I've also looked into, we were just talking about this the other day, is doing annealing PLA. So there's still a lot more to do with 3D printing that isn't just printing stuff, but I got to get my printers to a point where they're printing what I want before I start trying the complicated stuff.
Ben Wood asks, is there such a thing as aerial battle bots with small quads? Is that the future?
Ben asked about, is there such a thing as aerial battle bots? Well, there is now. Get on it. Go to the trademark and patent office and get on that. There isn't.
That would be hilarious.
I don't know what that would be like. Actually, I do know exactly what it would be like. It would be ant, touch, explode. I think that'd be interesting because you'd have to build like a whole cage around it. And I guess the whole point there, like with normal combat robots, it's always getting to the wheels. And I guess, yeah, with this, it'd be getting to a propeller because you knock out one propeller and you're dead. So they'd have these cool cages around it. Huh. I'm going to turn this off.
Okay. I'm actually going to go get the granddogs your mom asked to see.
Oh. So apparently my mom, is she on here? She has to go see the dogs. So yeah, so let's have some dogs show up here. So I'm going to move this back. So for anyone interested, these are our two dogs. Zephyr, come here, buddy. This is Zephyr, and that is Honey. They're two retired greyhounds. We've had Honey like a month. Yeah, she's pretty new. She's still fitting in. Come here, Honey. Nope. And Zephyr has a bit of a boo-boo right now. He sliced open his foot running a little bit too fast. Oh, they're cameras over here.
They're squirrely.
So those are the two dogs.
Doggies.
They don't really come out here much in the shop. It's kind of loud and annoying and cold concrete. Honey likes picking up UHMW shavings. She loves UHMW shavings.
Nom, nom, nom.
Yeah, so whenever she's out here, we have to dig through her mouth and pull plastic shavings out of her mouth.
Yeah.
So she's not very smart.
She's not smart. Okay. Back in the house. I don't trust you.
So let me see here. What else we got? Welded steel frame. Yeah, so Dima is... Actually, let me go up a little bit. Gabrielle asks, how old are the two of you? I am 37 and Kim is 4 years younger than me. Oh, wow, we were missing some stuff.
Hey, let me.
Oh, Bill Briggs has asked for talking to me about. Oh, so Bill, did you end up getting a Tormach? Let me fix this.
But the Tormach purchase, it was helpful when I made my choice.
Oh.
That was very, that's a little big.
Okay. Yeah, so respond to that, Bill, if you end up getting one or not.
So we were at the Aerial Battle Bots. Team Screw Up asked if you've seen the Crave Monster, which we have.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
Yes, I've seen the Crave Monster. Crave Monster is a foam core robot that is very, very, very simple, but very effective. Yes, very cool.
Yeah. And you want to explain why it's the Crave Monster?
Yeah, so it's called the Crave Monster because it's actually built out of Crave cereal boxes with foam core over it. So you can build something very cheaply. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You can do something pretty inexpensive.
So Sploodle asked, what is your all-time favorite bot from all robot competitions, and what inspired you to make Sergeant Cuddles?
Yeah, Sploodle was asking all-time favorite robot and what inspired me to build Sergeant Cuddles. All-time favorite, I really like Megabyte. Megabyte's definitely up there. Let's just call it Megabyte for right now. I'll change my mind tomorrow or next week. What inspired me, Sergeant Cuddles? I think that would be Casey is who got me into combat robots, and I had limited knowledge, and drum spinners were one of the few things I'd ever seen. So his robot, which is Electric Lawn Gnome Supremacy, and then Zach's robot, Unmakerbot, they both had drums at the time. They just built those drums. And so that's kind of why I went the drum route, is because I was just kind of learning stuff. So yeah, I think those were the inspiration for Sergeant Cuddles.
Team Scarlet Devil asks about you mentioning the beetle weight. Would it be a new kamikaze?
Yeah, so Team
Scarlet
Devil was asking about my beetle and whether it would be kamikaze. I'm not really sure. It wouldn't exactly be kamikaze. I wouldn't use the weapon from it. It may or may not be overhead. That is definitely on the short list of designs, but I'm not really sure what it is yet. What I typically do for planning a build like this is I start with the components. So I'm going to start with the drivetrain and some of the other stuff and kind of figure that out first, and then figure out what the configuration is going to look like after that.
Jonathan Ransom says, do great men have beards, or do beards make men great?
Both. Jonathan asked if great men have beards or if beards make great men, and I'd say both.
Gabriel asks, how old are we?
yeah, that's what I was getting to that. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm 37 and you're 33.
Yes.
Yeah, 33 and 37.
Yeah. Dima says, Robert, 3D printer based on welded steel frame. Great idea. You can use cheap mild steel tubing. I made one, so you can do this too.
Oh.
That's cool.
So yeah, Dima was talking about doing a welded steel frame. I've definitely looked at those. I know Lulzbot is starting to go to kind of like stamped steel structure with the Masumi extrusions in there. I think that's one way to go. I think that's one way to go. I also like the aluminum extrusions just because of the flexibility. Looking at it from my supply chain experience, I'd have to see how many printers you were going to sell to see if doing the stamped steel or bent steel would be better than the aluminum. But yeah, those are definitely a great way to do it. And if you have any pictures, send them to me. You can find my email address in the About section on my channel. Yeah.
Okay. Jonathan asked, do you hope YouTube will become a full-time gig at some point?
Jonathan asked if I hope YouTube will become a full-time gig. I don't know. It's going to take really a long, long ways before this becomes a full-time gig for me. I would like to do it full-time. It comes with its own challenges, but I'd have to go a lot further than where I'm at now. I mean, at least 10 times the size of my channel to really get there. So no time real soon, unfortunately. It's going to be difficult to make that decision to quit my day job. So it'll be a while.
We got doggies to support.
We got dogs to support. Those were 2 dogs.
They eat a lot.
They eat a lot, yeah.
Lincoln Roth, I don't know if he's joking or not, but he said, I think it actually does exist. I think it's called Game of Drones.
Oh.
I don't know if that's real, but that's awesome.
So yeah, we're talking about aerial drone fighting. Game of Drones. That would be amazing.
Game of
Drones.
Fight Club for Quadcopters.
Oh my God.
YouTube. Oh my God.
Well, I know what I'm looking at later.
That's awesome.
What time is it?
It's 1:14.
Oh, 14. Cool. So we get 45.
Cowan says they're big versions of my dog. Do you have Iggy's?
Oh, Iggy's. I'm going to sit.
Yeah. Where was the other one? I forgot. Let's see. Bill says, yes, a PCNC 1100.
Oh, wow.
And also ATC Power Drawbar Smart Cool.
Awesome.
I want to talk about those things that I don't know.
Yeah, so Bill just got an 1100. Congratulations. I really want an 1100. I need the extra size. And he got tool changer, power drawbar, and smart cool. So you went all in. That is awesome. You will like it. I think, depending on who you talk to, there's other people that will say, oh, you should have bought a Haas, you should have bought this, you should have bought that. But, at the end of the day, if you look at John Saunders, the other Tormach sponsor, he still uses his on a production floor with the Haas, and it's still a good machine. So yeah, you will be perfectly happy with that. Awesome.
Cool. My dad asked, how's the remote control snow mover project going? I know there were problems with shoveling snow out of the way, but they have competitions in Minnesota for just such a thing.
Ah. So quick question. Can all of you hear her even a little bit? I don't know if the mic is picking it up. My father-in-law was asking about the snow plow wheelchair thing. It's kind of tabled for right now. It worked like okay, but we're really lazy about shoveling. I don't even know if we really fully shoveled our drive at all last season.
Nah,
I don't think we ever shoveled it once.
sidewalks.
Yeah, so in our subdivision, we don't actually have sidewalks, and we have like a 8-car, 12-car driveway. I mean, you can fit a lot of cars in that driveway. It's really long and big, and we just really don't shovel. We just kind of plow through it. So I don't know. There's really not that much reason for me to finish it. What I really want to do is just get a tracked snow blower and motorize that, because that would be a lot more fun, because then I wouldn't have to, go through shoveling the whole thing. So maybe someday.
Gabriel says, try to CNC a drone frame and learn to fly it.
Oh,
my.
no. I could not imagine.
Heavy?
Actually, so Gabriel was talking about CNCing a drone frame. There's a guy I met at the Tormach open house that actually works, I think, for the tech support. And he actually has done 4140 molds to where he has machined them out with 3D contouring, and then he does carbon fiber. So he's actually molding his own carbon fiber quadcopter chassis and using the Tormach to actually do the mold for those. And it was really, really cool to see. And I'm gonna fall over. So yeah, that's what I would do. Is I would use a CNC machine to machine the molds and then do a carbon fiber layup. Yeah.
So they said they can hear me, which is cool.
Oh, good.
A
little closer.
So, and I quote from my dad, wow, that is a nice bandsaw. How about selling me your old one?
Unfortunately. So yeah, I did get the new bandsaw, and the old one sold like really, really quickly. But it had its fair share of issues. So yeah.
And it was mostly for metal.
Yeah, it was mostly for metal. And yeah, it was what it was. It served me well, but it was time for a new home.
Team Script says the first rule of Quad Club, you do not talk about Quad Club.
Nice.
Let's see. Andy Russell says, going back to custom poly wheels, I've just done it myself and have yet to test how they perform, but it's nice being able to use dimensions perfect for your design, makes everything more flexible.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I ran into when building Crippling Depression was, Coulson wheels are really wide. Like the actual tread isn't that wide, but then you get into the hub and everything else. And the hubs are really annoying. I don't understand why I just can't do a keyed hub. Like, I don't need this hex thing. I don't need like set screws. Realistically, at the end of the day, if you just have a key in there, you're good to go. So I would like to make a hub that's really simple, that just has a key way through it, because in my drive pods, I just run a key through the whole thing. There's no set screws in any of it, and never had an issue with that. So yeah, I need to play around with doing that, because machining or 3D printing a hub and then injection molding a tire around it, I think that would be the ultimate.
Jonathan asks, what type of your videos do you see perform the best?
Oh, good question.
There are a few different kinds of video.
Yeah, Jonathan was asking what type of videos perform the best, and the more generic ones. In ranking of number of views, my very top one of all time is the lathe centering tool. I did that one a long, long time ago, and I think that's over 100,000 views right now. I have no idea why. I really have no idea why that's my top viewed video. The shop light install is up there, and a couple other of the generic ones that just, really when it comes down to it, the videos that can perform the best on YouTube are the ones that have the most generic or general audience. So when I do something like Simon K. reflashing, that's really only for the combat robot segment or something like that. So when I do very generic videos, those tend to do a lot better.
Team Scarlet Devil says, thanks for the answer. Do you know if UnmakerBot is still going to Robo Games? Got a lightweight, so pretty worried about fighting it.
Yeah, so
Unmakerbot going to Robo Games. I don't think they are. Fortunately and unfortunately, fortunately because of you guys, unfortunately because it's always fun to watch. Zach is, I think they're too busy. Zach and Casey are, okay, I don't know if this is contract stuff, but they might still be doing Clash bots, wink, wink. They might actually be over in China at the time. So I don't think Zach is going to be able to go. So I don't think Unmakerbot's going to go. I'm trying to talk him into letting me drive it because I'll be there. You know, I got my thumbs free. So I would really love to drive Unmakerbot. I don't think he's going to let me. He shouldn't let me. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be there, unfortunately. So.
All right. Bill has a recommendation on good audio from a distance. There's a shotgun mic he recommends for $27. Taxstar SGC 598.
Oh.
But so that's good for distance, I guess.
Yeah. So one of the problems with shotgun mics out here is, I don't know if you can hear it, but it's very echoey out here, and the shotgun mic picks up a lot of the echo. I also have my mini split off. Let's try a different camera angle here. So for the whole shop, there's kind of my computer station, and then boom, right above it, there is my mini split. And this is almost always on. It's heating and cooling, so it's just kind of always going, and I have it off right now. But with a shotgun mic, I found that there's always kind of some background noise, whether it be that. I also have an air cleaner up there. So the air cleaner, the mini split, and then kind of everything else that goes on out here. The lapel mic is really good at kind of isolating that and only picking up my voice. So I would love to not always have a lapel mic on and just have a shotgun mic, but unfortunately it just doesn't work out like that.
Team Screw Up asks, have you ever seen a robot where it has an active weapon that isn't a flipper that is used for armor? Which, I mean, shell spinner is, right?
Yeah, I guess a shell spinner.
And what do you think of a robot like that?
I think it's cool. I don't know what it looks like, but it sounds cool. I've kind of thought about doing stuff like that. In the early days of combat robots, there was a lot of like spike bots, or, you know, they had like a spike that would jut out, stuff like that. The problem is when you're dealing on this plane, it's equal and opposite reactions, right? So if you're like that and then someone has a hammer or a fist or something like that pushes, you're both going to be pushed back. You're not going to be stand still and push the other way. So then it kind of becomes a vertical thing. And then now immediately you're a flipper or you're a vertical disc spinner. So yeah, I don't know exactly what that would look like, but Kim's right. Shell spinners are basically active armor.
Ben Wood asks, where do you see your channel going in the next year? Any new machines, big projects?
Oh, good. So Ben was asking where I see the channel going in the next few years or year. What Jonathan was talking about earlier is what videos perform the best. They're kind of the more generic videos. What I'd like to do is have more of those that appeal to a broader audience, so I can bring in more people into the channel, but also not really change what I'm doing, because I'm sure everyone here likes what I'm already doing and doesn't want to see it change to, you know, the fidget spinner of the month club kind of thing, to where I'm just chasing the new fad, which I absolutely do not want to do. So in the next year, I want to do a little bit more, you know, like let's say 1 every 4 videos, do something that's a little bit more accessible to the masses while still doing the videos I currently do. The other thing that I'm really wanting to do is maybe focus more on the combat robot sub-market and do more really basic low-level tutorials that explain all the basics to get more people into the hobby. Uh-oh.
James Gross says fidget spinner.
Spinner. Oh, and new machines. I don't think I have any big new machine purchases. I want something bigger than the 440, so that may or may not happen. Definitely, maybe within the next year, we might be replacing the CR10 to something bigger. I'm really kind of looking at like the G Create and maybe a new laser. I really like my laser. There's my laser. It is a really cool machine. I really like it and I use it constantly, but you know, it's a little bit kind of hacked together. I need to kind of finish it off, and I would like something a little bit bigger so I could do maybe some bigger stuff. Because if I got like a big old pallet of cardboard, I could actually do like a 3D model of everything just by printing it out in layers. So you can kind of use almost a slicer of a 3D model to just slice it up in layers and put together like a little cardboard model of something. So yeah, I definitely use the laser a lot. So anything I use a lot, I kind of like to see if there's an upgrade path for.
Jonathan Ransom has an excellent question. Have you ever thought about doing some previews or other exclusive content for your Patreon supporters?
Yeah, that's a good question. Jonathan's asking about like preview, basically Patreon levels. I have thought about that. The only reason I haven't done it is because I don't always have videos ready to go. So I would feel really bad if, I gave you a day notice. If it was just like, hey, it's Saturday, see the video, a few hours before it goes live. I'm not really sure how to do that. And I'm not really sure how to give everyone the best value out of Patreon either. It's a big ask to give me money every month. And I try and be consistent with the videos, but right now I actually have a good glut of videos going. I have, about a month planned out, but as soon as that goes away, it's going to be every single week. And there's a lot of times where I'm uploading it, 2 hours before the Sunday deadline. So yeah, it's really difficult to keep on top with that with the day job. If I ever go full time, 100% yes.
John Raymond asks, have you ever thought of CNCing your lathe? Converting, I'm guessing.
Yeah, doing a CNC conversion on the lathe. I definitely have. That was actually, so, when you have a YouTube channel, you kind of plan out your projects and like, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do this next. And on a very early version of my YouTube plan, I had CNC conversion of the lathe as one of my first top projects. I never really got around to it because I don't use the lathe that much. And I'm finding I can kind of trick the Tormach into doing most of what I want to do. So I just really haven't gotten around to it. And if I was using the lathe a lot, I think I would talk to Tormach and end up doing their CNC lathe maybe instead. I don't know, but good question. I'm just not really sure. I just don't use it enough to do the conversion. And yeah, I don't know if I used it enough, what I would end up getting.
Jonathan clarifies, I didn't mean full videos for the Patreon stuff. I want to get you the YouTube views. I mean, like short sneak peeks and such.
Oh, sneak peeks. That's a good idea. Let me see if I can try figuring that one out. Because even like the bandsaw, I could probably just film like a 30-second teaser that's like, hey, I got a new toy. So yeah, maybe I might try and do that. Part of the reason is Patreon is just yet another platform, yet another thing I have to log into, remember about it. So, I kind of always forget about the Patreon platform in general, but that's actually a good idea. I think I could maybe handle something like that. Yeah.
Make like little GIFs or something like that.
Yeah.
And post on that. It'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, but then I always worry about, that content I would want to put on Facebook too, and then I'm not really giving anyone exclusive content. So yeah, it's really hard. Ideally, I would just like to make everything free, no Patreon, no obligations, and just put everything out there. But I realize, you guys want to benefit from it. So yeah, I'll think about it.
So there's a whole side conversation talking about using acetate.
Ooh.
Let's see, for a robot, would you use it? Have you seen someone who uses it? And we have Zeron saying that they use acetate on their wedges with anti-beetles for like practically no zero or ground clearance.
Oh.
And then for ferry weights. So that's interesting. That's kind of
what is acetate? That's like a fiberglass resin? I'm going to ask you guys, what is acetate? I've heard of it.
Yeah, I don't know. At first I thought they were talking acetone, but they say super thin plastic sheets.
Okay.
Acetate. Oh, like gels for lighting?
Oh.
Like, is that kind of acetate?
Yeah, so what's the benefit, the point to using an acetate over like, Garolite or something like that?
Oh, overhead projectors in school. So those like super, super thin, clear things, they actually use that for wedges, right? Is that what they're saying? That's cool.
Interesting.
That definitely for ferry weight, that would be great.
Ferry weight, for the record, I will never build a ferry weight because it'll give me a heart attack. I don't think I could get that low in weight and just get that creative about saving weight everywhere. I don't want to have to worry about a set screw. So yeah, I'll probably never, it doesn't work well with my personality doing something so small. I think that frustrates me too much.
We got another question about your day job. I can reply to that.
Okay.
Let's see. Ben Wood says, have you seen people that use mills as a lathe, basically taking the tool rack from slant bed lathe and use a spindle as the chuck? You kind of have a video about that.
Yeah. Who was that?
Ben Wood.
Ben. Yeah. Ben was talking about using your mill as a lathe, things like that. Yeah, if you check out my channel, the rest of it, I have done mill turning on mine. Are you talking about the opposite, which is putting a mill head on the lathe? I haven't tried that, but that's definitely a different way to go. But I definitely have chucked the lathe tool in the vise and then run the workpiece in the spindle. Tormach was not very thrilled at me with that, but it definitely does work for some things. It gets very dangerous and very sketchy when you start getting to bigger parts, but for small parts, it actually works out quite well.
I think we're mostly caught up.
Probably getting close to time. I don't know what time is it. Oh, 1:30. Okay, so we're good.
Yeah, I don't know.
See
Anyone
if there's
have any other questions?
You guys have any other questions? I'm trying to think if there's anything else
Any announcements?
interesting out here.
Yeah. You could give a preview for the next video since people are tuning in.
Oh, yeah.
Right now,
So
for the next couple maybe?
yeah, so what's on deck? Let me see if I can find it. I'll be right back.
Oh, what?
Just moving the camera. Oh. Oh. Oh, that probably sounds weird, just out of context. So, upcoming video. Let's move this down. The wall looks funny backwards. So upcoming video, I think this is like 2 weeks out, maybe. This is crippling depression. So literally inside of here is crippling depression fully broke down into all of its primary components. And so I have a full, very thorough video. I think it was like a half an hour long, but I have a half an hour long video of every single piece that went wrong and just basically a full teardown of crippling depression. So that's coming up, and it's actually pretty interesting. I mean, if you can get through the half an hour, it is pretty long, but there's some kind of interesting things that ended up happening during the competition and lots of room for improvement. So that's coming up. I also alluded to the bandsaw video. So the bandsaw video is also going to be a future video, and then also, I'm not sure where I put that. And since we're here, another future video is one of these really inexpensive USB microscopes. I really hesitated getting one of these because I thought it'd be really cheap and really crappy, but I bought this thing for like $30, $35, and this is really, really decent. I was really surprised at how decent this was. So having this is really cool because you can look at end mills, you can look at, I actually used it to look at close-ups on crippling depression's frame and kind of look at the metal damage. For $35, it's a really neat thing to have around. So I have a kind of a video review of this guy coming up in a couple weeks as well.
Beckner asks, would you be on Battle Season 4?
If I will be?
Yes.
And who is that?
This is Eckner.
So Eckner was asking if I'll be on BattleBot Season 4. It's not something I think you can't just say yes or no because, I have to get accepted.
if I could come up with a design and I could get something built, I definitely, absolutely would like to be on season 4. I think timing wise, that might work out if this season works out well. I am definitely going to be trying to get on BattleBots. That's kind of one of my life goals right now, is trying to do that. So I'll be working towards that at least. I can't promise, obviously, either way if I get on, but that's a goal for me.
Ben asked, what's the lightest class you would compete in?
Ben asks lightest class. I think right now it would be ant weight, although I have 0 plans to ever do ant weight again with Sergeant Cuddles selling. I'll probably not go back to ant weight for a little while. I think what happens is a lot of people start out with the insect class, build bigger, and then they realize that that's a ton of time and money and a lot of stress, and then they kind of go back to the insect class. I'm kind of in that middle ground where I'm still kind of cool with the bigger stuff. I will eventually go back, I'm sure, but right now, no plans to ever go back to ant weight, and my next smaller one will be a beetle, because I haven't really done much with the beetle class. So
Jonathan's helping us out, telling us some other tips about Patreon stuff that he's seen other YouTubers that have a short after video just for the Patreons.
Okay.
Or like maybe a behind the scenes or just some little extra tidbit content that wouldn't be that much, but I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. So my biggest issue with any of this, YouTube, Patreon, whatever, is making the video. Since I do everything, the video is actually just as much as the project. If I wasn't filming anything, or if I could just hire someone to film it, I could probably do 4 times as many projects. But just figuring out the narrative and the flow of the video, getting the camera set up, putting it together, going back and refilming something, or even machining something in such a way that you can actually see it, that's actually what takes a lot of the time. So yeah, it's always tricky adding that extra content in at the end. These are actually really easy for me to do because I don't have to go and edit everything and go back and redo it. But yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
Team Scarlet Devil says, is there any difference in strength between HDPE and UHMW? They seem the same in my previous experience.
Yeah, difference between UHMW and HDPE. I don't really know all that much about it. HDPE is more common with like cutting boards and stuff like that. And UHMW is definitely more expensive and less common. And of course, UHMW is ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, where HDPE is high density polyethylene, right? So they're very similar. One's high molecular weight and one's just high density. From my experience, I thought HDPE was a little bit gummier and a little bit more flexible, whereas UHMW feels a little bit harder to me. But I think you're probably right. I think they're probably very similar. I've just heard that machining HDPE is a little bit trickier, so I just stuck with UHMW instead. But you're probably right. They probably perform very similar.
There's a lot of discussion. There's apparently a whole lot of UK competitions going on in places that I don't know where they are.
Bristolford, Bedingham.
Actually, Bristol Butt Burgers. But that's cool. That's cool to see a bunch of local places in UK for them too. I think that was the last question. Yeah, I think we're kind of caught up.
Okay.
I don't know when your end time was.
It was going to be about 2. So I think unless anyone else has any other questions, I think we're going to call it for now. And I do keep planning to do these, roughly once a month, if that's cool with everyone out there. But yeah, unless there's any other questions, I think we might kind of call it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, not really.
Give a few seconds to catch up.
Yeah. Jonathan's trying to get you to quit your day job here. He's like, there's Amazon affiliate links too.
So in response to that, I showed the USB microscope thing. I did sign up for Amazon affiliate. Now it's getting tired. Amazon affiliate links. I do have that set up, and on the future videos where applicable, I do have affiliate links in there. So that is now set up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for coming and watching. And as always, you can go ahead and check out my Facebook page for more updates about my channel. You can check out the Patreon page for channels that I support and also to support my channel. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Thank you.
Is this going to be an awkward end?
I'm just going to keep it on you until you get really uncomfortable. This is where the credits would be fading by.
Yeah, I need credits rolling. This is really creepy.